Colin had a problem and a microphone to spare. Thomas took it up and so the podcast went to air. For weeks and months they trolled through every single DVD. They've unwrapped all the ones they can and now they're cellulose free. Now they're cellulose free.
Hello dear listener, and welcome to this very special episode of Cellulose Free. My name is Colin, and with me as always is my fellow film watcher, compadre and son, Thomas.
Hi, hello.
It is special, isn't it?
It's a little special.
If this was a visual medium...
It's about 6 hours special.
It is. The sun is shining, the birds are singing, and Noddy is happy. What have you been up to?
Well, not actually a lot, to be honest.
You were given a chance to make a list.
I was making a list about baseball things.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I thought we'd had a talk about the baseball. I thought you were going to create a whole spin-off.
No.
Spin-off podcast so that...
What would this podcast be without contextless statements about things I like?
About 15 minutes shorter? No, what have you been up to, though? You've obviously finished Firewatch, playing Firewatch, because I provided you with a pristine copy of Firewatch too.
Only just got round to it yesterday, but yes, I have played and finished Firewatch.
Oh, wow. What do you think?
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah.
It was good.
Yes.
Yes. I started on the audio commentary, and then on day 2, I picked up the radio, and I clicked it, and then the game was soft-locked. So I reloaded the save, and I picked up the radio, and I clicked it, and the game was soft-locked. So...
What's going on there?
So I may have to restart my journey through the audio commentary.
You may have to.
Yes.
Yes. So, but well worth the play?
Yeah. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Watching through to the very end of the credits gets a little sad.
Yes, it does.
It does.
Did you use the entire role?
I did not end up using the entire role, no.
Right. I'm not going to reveal to our dear listener what I'm referring to. You'll have to get your hands on the game and... yes.
Anyway, baseball.
Yes. Oh, don't worry, I'll just edit it out.
Okay. Thank you, by the way, to my colleagues over at the Society for Internet Baseball Research for helping me compile this list. Because a lot of things have happened in the past week. Here we go.
Let me explain. No, there is too much. Let me sum up.
Detectives Liquid Friend and Uncle Plasma were retired by league management and added to the vault. We don't know if they found out anything, and we may have the opportunity to find out if specific circumstances transpire in the next couple of days.
Good.
Sun 30, the 30th sun, was set and is now adding wins to both teams if they go into overtime.
Good.
The squared sun, which is a square sun, gained pressure over the last season and continues to gain pressure, especially when new suns are set or players are incinerated. And we're pretty sure this is a bad thing because the little bits of information we've received about the past suggest that maybe everyone will die if the sun reaches full pressure. Maybe.
Good.
The 5th base was taken out of the oven, the Philadelphia Pie Stadium, and almost immediately put back in again, so I assume it wasn't done cooking. it was revealed that the Canada Moist Talkers were originally from Topeka, Kansas. So that was discourse for a few hours.
That will cause great consternation to our Canadian listener.
Yeah, apparently there's some sort of thing about Canadian sports getting sort of ruined.
Yes.
When they go south of the border.
Yes.
Renovations have transpired to be weird, sort of inverted or combined versions of each other. So that's fun, I guess. Things are happening that are ambiguously good or bad. They might look bad at first glance, but circumstances as they are might be really good. Don't know. Won't know until the end of the week. Teams built so many tunnels under their stadiums that having tunnels under your stadium became a rule.
Good.
Across the entire league.
Good.
And then teams almost built so many balloons over their stadiums that balloons became a rule but missed by one. And finally, the number of players who never existed, who have haunted other players, is now 106. We have 106 mystery ghosts.
Do they all have names?
They do all have names, yes.
Right. Are they names that have been given to them, or are they their names?
They are their names, yes.
Good, good. So not the grey ghost and the headless ghost. It's Murray and Douglas and...
Totally normal for baseball standards names.
Right, good. Okay.
Yeah.
So, welcome back, dear listeners, to...
Yeah, welcome back from...
segment that I've just deleted and...
from Media Review Town.
Good. What have I been up to? I have, yet again, a fortnightly plasma donation. I have a new CPAP mask. Isn't that exciting? Yes, not a full face one. I've gone for the just the up the nose blast of air that's taking a bit of getting used to, but
right.
We'll see how that goes. Yeah, other than that, no, I've got nothing, which is probably a good thing because we have something.
We do.
We have something mammoth to watch.
We do, yes.
What is it that we are watching today?
We are watching Stanley Kubrick's 2001 A Space Odyssey.
Yes. I have to ask, Thomas, do you currently have a migraine?
I do not currently have a migraine.
Okay.
I'm also not currently young and not currently religious either.
Good.
So all of the previous factors in having watched this film no longer transpire.
Okay. So it's going to be a completely different experience for you.
Mm-hmm.
My very first experience of this film, I did actually watch it at the cinema.
Right.
And I would have been maybe 13 or 14. They had a... What did it have been then?
Not when it originally came out.
No. It was a remaster and a re-release, and went with a friend, and yes. So I have seen it at the cinema, and I did also watch it at Rosny College in the auditorium.
Right.
With the marvellous sound system they've got there, or had there, and it was a 16mm print. So
it's certainly a passable sound system.
Then it not so much. Anyway, all that being said, we are watching I don't know whether I have actually watched this Blu-ray copy of it. I've certainly watched DVD copies of it since those early experiences.
It's unwrapped.
It is unwrapped, but I cannot remember whether this is a copy that one of our dear listeners donated to me because they upgraded to 4K.
Yeah.
I think it might be. I know that's certainly the case with my copy of 2010 on Blu-ray. But I think this may also be the case. So that is what we're in for today. Thomas, would you share with our dear listener what this film is all about? Good luck with that, because they're still debating it.
Stanley Kubrick's dazzling Academy Award-winning achievement is a compelling drama of man versus machine, a stunning meld of music and motion. Kubrick, who co-wrote the screenplay with Arthur C. Clarke, first visits our prehistoric ape ancestry past, then leaps millennia, via one of the most mind-blowing jump cuts ever,
Spoiler.
into colonized space, and ultimately whisks astronaut Bowman into uncharted space, perhaps even into immortality.
Can they say space again?
Space.
Thank you.
Space.
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 The final frontier.
Thank you, Space Corps. Open the pod bay doors, Hal. Let an awesome journey, unlike any other, begin.
Excellent. That's what we are in for, supposedly. It said it's an Academy Award winner, but I don't think it won the Academy Award for Best Picture.
Best visual effects.
Yep. Okay. I'm curious to know what was the Best Picture for 1960...
1968.
So it is important to note that this film came out a year before man did actually land on the moon. So Stanley Kubrick went straight from making this film to filming the onstage landing onto Soundstage 47 to film Armstrong stepping out onto the stage floor.
It says 1968 on the back here, which means that it was awarded at the 1969
Yes.
Academy Awards, even though it says here 1968.
How very odd.
Best Picture, Oliver.
Well, there we go. So after all of those distractions, we're now 20 minutes into the film,
Yeah.
apparently. According to the...
Yeah, it's definitely the film
I
that is
suspect
playing.
it is the film, unless it is one of the docos. But I doubt it. I reckon it's the film.
I very much doubt it.
All right. So the disc is already in the player, as you can tell, by us watching
Yes.
the counter ticking away. So Thomas will not open the case. Mongrel. We're doing
it's
everything
Eureka
out.
Season 2.
We're going to watch 2001: A Space Odyssey, and we'll talk about it after watching it, and we'll catch you on the flip side.
Turn to side B.
I'm not going to say mongrel because I've already called you a mongrel.
You have.
I have, you mongrel.
Oh, no, you've ruined it.
Oh,
It's ruined.
the moment's gone.
So, you awake?
So, do you have a migraine now?
No. And,
Am I
yeah.
awake?
honestly,
How many times did I snore?
it only in the last half hour,
Yeah.
I think. And
He does suddenly go into
we have here
university's
an art
project.
film, speculative fiction,
Yes.
some proper sci-fi, which is the most interesting segment.
Yes.
And then an art film again at the end.
Indeed. Indeed. So, do you understand it? Don't lie, because nobody does.
Is it to be understood?
Can there be understanding in this film? Yes, okay, I admit. It was a two-edged sword making the decision of actually sitting through that last 20 minutes. Having watched it so many times before, knowing what was going to happen, and knowing that in my current sleep-deprived state, I would probably try and... Well, I wouldn't try. I would try to stay awake, but I would probably fall asleep. So we could have sped through that, but that would have been wrong. So I don't know what is more wrong, speeding through it or falling asleep through it. I was doomed.
In either way, you miss huge chunks.
And it was bizarre because the very last segment where they're in that building where things suddenly move location and things like that, if you doze off and then reawaken, it doubles that. Hang on, how did he get from there to there? Did I fall asleep again, or was that Stanley Kubrick doing that?
There are so many parts of this film that are good, but the rest is slow and takes forever to get where it's going, either because, I don't know, we want to play the full piece of music several times throughout the movie, or we just want to hold on this for however long.
Speaking of the music, I mean, it's quite commonly known that Stanley Kubrick did employ someone to write music for it, but when he was editing, he was using temp music, which was the Strauss and the...
which is such a trap to fall into.
And he fell so much in love with it that he had a composer who wrote a whole heap of music for it. The same composer who wrote music for Spartacus, Alex North, and also music for Dr. Strangelove. And Stanley Kubrick didn't use any of it. And that's the commonly known story. What I didn't realise until today was that Alex North didn't know that Stanley Kubrick had done that until the premiere. So can you imagine being a composer who's sitting here watching something that he's put his heart and soul into, and then, okay, where's my music? Where's my music? I mean, his choices were iconic. And also Sprach Zarathustra is synonymous with this film. And so in a lot of ways is The Blue Danube, because it's played so many times.
Yeah.
But the other piece that with the choral...
Oh, that atonal...
yes.
It comes up so often.
So often. And
runs for so long.
Yes. Used in the overture. Yes, the movie had an overture. It was also used in the interval. Yes, the movie had an interval. As a side note, intervals. With my... and only reflecting back now as an adult, intervals, both in the few movies that I saw at the cinema as a child that had intervals, and as a teen, and in plays, they were a great source of anxiety for me. And I'd never been able to identify it until today. I suddenly realised what was going on, is the fact that I was absolutely terrified of going out and then missing something.
Right.
Not getting back in time. It just absolutely terrified me that... So I wouldn't get out of my seat. The other thing was losing my seat. I'd adjusted to my surroundings. The way my mind works is that it takes me a long time to adjust to being in a place. And once I've established my spot and know that it is safe, I need to stay there. I need to know where my exits are. But and so when suddenly there's interval and everyone's saying, "Oh, you want to go up and get something?" And it's just, what move from the spot that's taken me all this time to get established here and go somewhere else that is a strange place, and then hopefully get back here. Will this space still be here? And so intervals.
Yep.
Okay. And this had one.
I had sparse notes because it is a sparse film.
It is for all its length. It is a sparse film.
The back of the case describes the jump cut between The Dawn of Man and the second segment as mind-blowing. And I had in my head this picture that jump cut was a match cut, and then it happened, and it wasn't a match cut at all.
That was the process that went through my head as well. And in fact, there's a double cut of the bone flying through and then flying through again, and then the famous cut. and it isn't a match cut, but it is still impactful.
It's abrupt, certainly.
Yes. It isn't as impressive as my brain had processed it as being.
No.
And I don't know whether that is because I'm glad we didn't watch this tonight, because I really would have fallen asleep during it. It sounds like we're bagging it. It is a brilliantly incredible, groundbreaking film.
It is fundamentally a good film that I don't have good things to say about.
I certainly can find heaps and heaps of good things to say about it within the context of its sci-fi section. But when it suddenly goes all art house at the end and indulgent, and I didn't mind the long space indulgence, the shots that everyone teases the near beginning of Star Trek, the motion picture, where there's they call it spaceship porn, where it goes on for ages.
What was it? Star Trek Lower Decks that specifically asked to have a longer episode just to riff on that sort of thing.
Yeah, okay. I have still only watched the first episode of Lower Decks.
Right.
Which is really, really bad of me.
Yeah.
So I will have to...
Spoiler alert, there's a riff on that.
Excellent. Good. But no, as far as the spaceship porn in this, absolutely brilliant and groundbreaking, because... when you consider all the spacecraft and what have you that had and shots that had occurred prior to this film, wow! And I mentioned the Star Trek: The Motion Picture, which went on forever. When you think of the opening of Star Wars, I will not say A New Hope, Star Wars,
A New Hope
with the Star Destroyer, just that long continuous shot that Spaceballs makes a jab at. Well, when we first get introduced to what's its
Discovery
name?
1?
Yeah, that's much the same and still absolutely glorious. I absolutely love where it is true, honest, smart science fiction. I do not go much for the art house stuff.
I did say I didn't have a good thing to say about it. That's specifically referring to my notes. I do actually have one good thing to say in my notes, which is that some of the Discovery 1 shots are as much a cinematographic masterpiece as they are a choreographic masterpiece.
Yeah, which re-emphasises that use of the Blue Danube, which is a waltz. It was all choreographed. All of those space shots, the Moonlander, as it was approaching and then dropping and being watched by people on the moon from a distance, it's just glorious.
Yeah.
And choreographed.
It was
a
rotation
dance.
shots.
Just the rotation shot and the camera sort of going through that rotation. It just none of this strings, and flames coming out at the back of rockets type of thing. This was just absolutely groundbreaking. So
it's technically brilliant.
Yeah, and still holds up incredibly well. The rear projection of interiors, so that you can see people moving inside of ships, and in the base where that Moonlander is lowering, you can see people sort of moving around and watching screens.
Maybe some of the spec fic doesn't quite hold up.
Yeah, it is interesting you mentioned that. As far as the speculative side of things, you've got the the video call. I remember we talked about it in the island with video calls. Okay, this is almost half a century before, and they've got the video calls done well, looking realistic, run by a now defunct, I think, telephone company.
Right.
I think Bell has merged with.
Oh, Bella's split and merged
and what have you. But the video calls were Skype calls again, and looked not out of place.
Yeah, the technology isn't really what I'm taking fault with here.
Mm.
It's all the design cues and and
gee, those chairs looked uncomfortable, especially if you were tall.
Yeah,
in the foyer of
these ghastly red
station.
blobs.
That tall guy looked awfully uncomfortable sitting in that. Also with the island, mentioning the table with the screen in it, the touch screen in it. There wasn't so much touch screening going on, but screens that looked incredibly functional. The game of chess going on.
Okay, we've talked about music.
Mm-hmm.
Music is a component of sound.
Yes.
There's dialogue in segments 2 and 3.
Yes.
And that's in segment 2. It's I would call it a bit stilted in places, especially in that video call.
Yes.
Very awkward child actor. Which what you gonna do? Honestly.
Again, like the island, you have the kid answering the phone.
Yeah. There's another component of sound, and that is sound effects. And in a few places in this film, those sound effects are continuous and very annoying. And please don't do that. Don't.
I don't know what you mean.
We have the monolith doing its radio signal, very high, very long noise.
Yep.
We have the oxygen hiss at several points in segment 3.
Yes.
Just on on.
With also the breathing in and out.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we have the life support being deactivated in the ship, which isn't continuous.
No.
It's discrete, but it's loud and high and annoying.
And it's 2-stage as well.
Yeah.
You've got the warning that it's about to happen, and then I've pressed the button, now it's definitely happening.
And then blissful silence as it is confirmed that all of these people have died. Oh dear.
Sorry, an anachronism. Another product placement going on there was Pan Am. Now, back in the 70s, well before I'd seen this, I think I was possibly 8 or 9. My grandmother gave me a book on planes, trains, not automobiles, boats, and what have you. And in the planes section, there was this great jet airliner, and it had the Pan Am logo on it.
Right.
And that particular page, for some reason, intrigued me, and so I remember vividly when I first watched this film, seeing the Pan Am logo and going, wow, so Pan Am's still around in 2001. Because I watched this first in the 80s. Well, Pan Am went bankrupt in 1991. So
yeah, that didn't happen.
Yeah. So,
and BBC still using its old logo and somehow accruing at least 12 television channels. That didn't happen. They got up to 4, and then they started using descriptive words. So
so
BBC
they got that
News
wrong.
And
Shame.
BBC Parliament. That didn't happen.
The whole sense of impending doom that was built up with Hal saying, I hope you still have confidence in me. And, the Earth contact saying, sorry about this little snag, fellas. We're doomed. I have a question.
Okay.
If anyone was to ask you, quote something from 2001: A Space Odyssey, what would it be that you would say?
Open the pod bay doors, Hal. I'm sorry, I can't do that, Dave.
Okay, so open the pod bay doors, Hal. Which, if Hal was behaving himself, he would open the pod bay doors.
Yes.
Okay. It's not something that you would say while you're in the pod bay, inside the pod bay, without a helmet on.
No.
Is it?
No, they did say open the pod door.
This is where I'm heading. Okay. What if you got them... so, to open the door of one of the actual pods before you go out into space, you say, well, open the pod door, Hal. If you accidentally said, open the pod bay door, Hal, right then, without your helmet on, would Hal be smart enough to not open the pod bay doors?
I can recommend a short video on YouTube called My Job is to Open and Close Doors.
Right.
Which is a short exploration of this idea that a computer should do what it's told, even if that's not necessarily a good idea.
Oh, okay, I am intrigued. I shall put a link in the show notes.
Yeah, I'll send that to you.
Yep. Okay, so it's been established I very, very nearly fell asleep a number of times in the last 20 minutes, and I say that unashamedly. I have sat through that end numerous times without falling asleep, and I have still not managed to gain any real understanding other than Stanley Kubrick was being an art jerk.
It's a long sequence of flashing lights that, I remember the eye blinking, and every time it comes up, I'm like, oh, are we done? And it doesn't change colour, so I know that we're not done. We're still going.
Yeah.
We're still going. Oh, good. Finally, the eye has changed colour when it blinks. We are done here. We can move on to a very slow ending.
Yeah. What does surprise me, though, is there have been a number of films since that have had that Kubrick moment where they're like crossing event horizon. The Black Hole does it. This sequence where they're going through the black hole and everything goes weird. There are other films. Please, dear listener, if you can think of one that... Please contribute.
Yes.
But it's happened, but it is very much a nod to this is where it all gets crazy, and we've still got half an hour to fill. So let's anyway.
Yeah. This is a good film. Read the book instead.
Yes. I certainly have a soft spot for 2010. For entirely different reasons.
It's a very different film.
One of those is that it is, in a lot of ways, a very conventional film. And it's got characters in there that you can relate to, I think, a lot better. And I'm not saying it's a better film. I would not dare say. It's, again, another one of those Emperor's New Clothes type of films where... one has to be very careful about saying anything bad about 2001.
2001 is a good film. 2010 is a film I would watch.
Yes. Yeah. But I still have a very, very soft spot for good 70 to 80% of this film, because I don't think we'd have Star Wars.
No.
The effects creators in 2001 went on to hone their craft and produce the effects that we saw in Star Wars, and the number of technologies that were developed or were born from this film are incredibly, incredibly important. So, anyway,
we've
waffled on.
We have.
I certainly have. So we might move on.
We might, yes.
And we don't have, don't think, anything that we wish to raise in the segment that has no name.
There's exactly nothing that anyone outside of the podcast has raised.
Yep.
I don't have anything to raise myself. Do you have anything?
No. Considering time, we're ending up with one of those art house long endings that, yes.
That goes on a bit.
Yeah, so we might just go straight into the next segment.
Pick a film for next week so we can go to bed. It's your turn.
It is my turn. Now, I did raise with Thomas earlier, the last 3 films, including this one, have had 4-letter names.
Four character names.
4 character names. We have had Hugo, Moon, and 2001.
Right.
A Space Odyssey. So I have... No, I'm not. I'm just going to randomly select one and not have it restricted to only 4-letter names.
We almost had 4-letter June.
Oh, June.
No, June, as in June, the month of June.
The month of June. Yes, that's true.
I'm not suggesting Dune.
No. The only copy of Dune that I have is the extended TV cut.
Right.
That the director of the original theatrical cut demanded that his name be removed from. Right. So it is an Alan Smithy film, I think. The traditional name one uses as the director's name for... And
is about half an hour longer than what we have just watched now.
Yes, and I think it's a 4x3 because it was edited for television. So no, not Dune. All right, so I'm going to be a little bit selective as to whether I decide to go with what it chooses to.
Oh, right, David Lynch.
It was a David Lynch film, and I saw that at the cinema with a good friend of mine. And we both had somewhat mediocre opinions of it, if I remember correctly.
Such a divisive director that I'm not sure I've seen any films of.
Right. Ooh. Okay. No, I'm definitely accepting this one.
Okay.
It's going to be a bit brutal.
Okay.
But we're going to go for it.
Okay.
This is now it uses the name of the film right at the beginning.
Right.
So, is inspired by the true story of Christopher McCandless, Emil Hirsch, a young man who abandons his life of comfort to pursue the freedom of life on the road, a quest that leads him to the Alaskan wilderness and the ultimate challenge of his life. Screenplay and directed by Sean Penn and featuring an all-star cast including William Hurt, Marcia Gay Harden, Vince Vaughn, Catherine Keener and Hal Halbrook. Doesn't tell you much.
No, it doesn't.
It's not very helpful.
No.
Into the Wild, you need a better description on the back of your... You don't want to give away too much in this film, even though it is based on a true story. So, we are watching Into the Wild next week.
Right.
Its genres are adventure and drama. And I should also point out that its running time is 2 hours and 28 minutes.
Right.
So it is a long film. So we may well do it.
Same time next week.
Same time next week. Speaking of same time next week, we hope that you can join us when we watch Into the Wild. But until then, we'll catch you next time.
Bye. You have been listening to Cellulose Free. Your hosts were Colin, who produces and edits the show, and Thomas, who makes the artwork and music. Cellulose Free is recorded in the Deranged Cat Studios in scenic Tasmania, Australia. We keep track of our extensive physical media collection through My Movies, which we highly recommend. You can find links to that, as well as other places you can find us in the show notes. Cellulose Free is a Hi Hello production. Sometimes I get a good feeling. Yeah, I get a feeling that I've never had before. Oh no, I get a good feeling. Yeah. That's levels.
Yeah.